Hi everybody, my name is Scott Jewers, and this is another entry in the series The Wolf and the Neural Network. This is series entry 3, and due to the length, this had to be broken into two parts, so sorry for the editing, I'm new at all this stuff. So this is going to be part 1, there'll be part 2, and then there will be a special series created on this time frame. Enjoy. So, around the same time, I want to be fair to all sides because you'll be like, oh, this is just a race thing to go after this. And it's like, no, no. At the same time, I had some very candid discussions online with people about, because there were some people saying that black people can't be racist or other, and it's like, no, no, they could be racist. Racist is a human disease. That's hate. It's inside all of us. And if you're saying you're a color and so you can't be racist, that's racist. You're a racist. Right? Now you can look at it and say, you can go through the mechanisms of systemic racism and then say that like it's very difficult for certain groups of people to be systemic racist, and it's like absolutely true. Right? Absolutely 100% true. And that systemic racism was a massive factor in Canada, as was individual racism. But then to try to just say that because I'm black or because I'm white or because I'm Asian I can't be racist, that's bullshit. That is the myth. Right there, you hurt your argument so bad, right? So I did have these conversations online, and like the people who attacked me, I couldn't believe it. Like they went right to, oh, you're just a straight white man, you don't know, couldn't possibly know. Like I'm gay, and I went through a lot of shit as a kid. And like if you see all the stuff I did and said about racism and stuff before this and the hits that I took, just watching them degrade me just because of the color of my skin and then them saying they couldn't possibly be racist, as they're trying to use those systems now to destroy me to get to come together. It's fascinating. And in fact, I'm going to do a whole special episode just on that because I find it so fascinating. And it's like, it's really amazing to watch that. And I'd like to know what it actually is called because I'm not educated in those terms, but I know that somebody would be able to tell me what their reaction was and why they acted like that, and there must be a name for it because it wasn't right and it wasn't decent. It was just like, it was hate. It was hate. They found somebody they thought they could hate and they did it, and it's like that's no different than anybody else, and I find that absolutely fascinating, especially because they were quoting Jane Elliott, who did the blue-eyed student thing in her class, and it's like because they were told they were colored people, they can't be racist, they turned into monsters, and they couldn't see that they were doing exactly what they were like. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and absolutely fascinating, and absolutely required. I'm glad that I did it, even though these people just like horrified me and attacked me and lied, and I mean, what an experience to watch that happen. And it certainly gave me greater sympathy for, the police in some instances, but also the politicians and who are ultimately going to have to deal with this. So, I'm like, okay, like something bad happened, they came after me, all this different stuff, mocking all of this, I was attacked. Now I don't have anything, I can't get a job anywhere because like these people are reasonably going to target me. Now if I get a job, how can I get anything to do with these shipbuilding contracts unless somebody contacts me and says we're good? And remember, I said dozens of times I would sign something and just walk away. But I needed to know because I knew something bad happened. But nobody contacted me, nobody contacted me, nobody contacted me. Now, so I start to get my letter ready, and my letter that I would have ultimately sent on August 5th, 2020, and I would have had my letter done definitely by July 27th, I believe. That's like the last edit date or something I seen in one of them, but it was probably done before that. And listen, I told nobody about this, and I'm a nobody, so nobody should know anything about this. And I made sure that so these people could watch for leaks and cracks, because if this got out, can't be me. I'm just some gay bro from the sticks. I ain't selling no story. No, I wouldn't do anything like that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Me trying to report something like this? Stupid. Any police officer not to see that, you're dumb. You're a dummy. You're a fucking dummy. Straight up dummy. You're a waste of resources. Dumb. So anyways, I get my letter ready to go, and it's on August 5th. 2020. And, you know, so my internet had got cut off before that and stuff. And so I sent my letter. And you can ignore all this Pipita stuff because I got that really tuned, really, really beautiful document done from that. I just tried to hit as many points as I could. But what you'll note is the personal letters to the individuals and asking them, like, look, what do you think now? Don't you wish you would have said something? When does this kind of behavior end? You know, when I talk like that, I talk to Jody because she's part of like these different young women's groups and like these different like groups that help the community, which is fantastic, Jody. But in the end, these people are going to turn to you to put your foot down and say something about these topics. They're going to look to you to show strength in these topics. They're going to look to you to see what you're going to do. And what did you do in this case? You buckled and then told me I was the problem. You know what's wrong with that. Right? What are you going to tell them young girls, them young black girls, them young brown girls, young Asian girls? What are you going to tell them? That it doesn't exist? There's nothing you can personally do about it? No. That type of lying to yourself and lying to the community and lying to the world, it has to end. Right? You'll see I spoke to Jim Perrin saying, look, man, you messed up in some bad ways. Some of the worst ways a person can mess up. Right? But you can make this right. I know there's something that you can do. You know there's something you can do right now to make this right. It's not too late. Listen, anybody watching this, you might have done bad shit, you might have said bad shit, but it's never too late. It's never too late to just say no. Never, okay? Ever. It's never too late. And you'll note that I spoke right to, you know, just like the director and Jim Rainey and stuff, talking like, look, you didn't see this? Now what are your feelings on this? Right? What has happened and talked historically about, like, you know, it's probably in a different letter, about what happens when you take away people's rights like that. You know, and I was like very like educational about it and on point about it. And, you know, I talked to these individuals, but right with the person right at the top, you'll note that like, I was like, you didn't think I'd get this close, did you? Not that it was something I was trying to do. I couldn't make up these race issues. I couldn't make up them choosing Jim Perrin. They chose to associate me with the Wortley Report and those people and these race issues, not me. Okay? And they would have bet against me. And of course, that when on June 10th, it looks like, man, they were trying to stalk me, probably to try to say that I'm crazy, to lock me up in a mental institution because of my mother's mental illnesses, which is consistent with the night dress thing, with them happening to know the letters coming on the 19th of November, 2019, my internet security tests, my internet cutting out now when this thing goes live, me reporting being followed. Right? And this is only some of the things that I'm including. So anyways, you see like that I said, you know, you will yield now, or I will strap a collar on your neck and parade you through the streets howling. Now, that's because I was directly talking about their dominance levels in terms of animals and like tigers and sharks, you know, each with their own specific skill set, which makes them dangerous in their own way. But the most important thing is that when they smell blood, and why these people are acting like this is because if one person smells blood in the water, they don't know who they're going to get. One of them's going to jump them. Like, I mean in like a professional way, in that like contest. That's all, and it was completely, absolutely contextual. And then you'll see I howled, which was the irony of calling me a dog, yet I was so right about the technical, all this different stuff, but I'm just a little dog, and I was treated like a dog. And you'll see that go back to the verbiage on December 10th, and how many times, and to that, I did try to resolve this many times before that, right? So it's like, a lot of this stuff is in context. There was no physical, nothing like that. I've never been in a fist fight with somebody. Like, I've never threatened anybody. Like, you can go through all my messages. Never. I'm not that kind of person at all. I don't like that. Like, it just, ew. I don't understand why people have to be like that. Like, me watching the news, I'm shocked every day. I'm like, man, I can't believe those kinds of monsters exist. Like, what happens to people? Right? So I send my letter, and just before that, I talked to my family member. I'm like, look, something obviously is going to happen. I don't have family support. I don't have, I don't have anyone, right? And I'm scared these people are going to use it against me, and I know something big's going to happen, and I just needed to be prepared, so I'd waited a few days, right? And then I sent my letter August 5th, 2020, and then the next day, Stephen McNeil resigns. Now, I want to see if I can find the direct article here, okay? It says, Nova Scotia Premier Stephen McNeil resigned, says he is leaving politics. The announcement caught many off guard as McNeil previously said he expected to attempt a third term. McNeil only advised the caucus of his decision earlier in the day. Right? He said he was going to, I think, resign back in April. But, COVID happened. And, there's a lot going on in the world. And I also need... So, anyways, anybody in my position now, seeing that happen the next day, knowing all these people are involved, you would rationally think that that's involved. Many people, my mom's like, obviously that's involved. Right? I spoke to a friend and they're like, Scott, that's involved. And I'm like, oh no, I can't treat it like that because they'll call me crazy. So I gave it a 1%. And ultimately, when I got falsely arrested and they locked me up, they called me crazy for signing that a 1%. Monsters. You wait till we get to that part of it. You're going to learn what a real monster is. And it ain't Scott yours. I'll tell you that. So I want to talk about the McNeil thing, but I want to talk about an event that happened just before that that's really interesting, because several days before that, on June 30th, two events happened. Remember my internet getting cut off? I said my letter was definitely fully ready about 3 days before this. But now, Kevin McCoy goes on CTV News and is talking with Steve Murphy about the ships being done, him being a proud daddy. Right? I have no doubts, man, you make ships. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm not judging you for that at all. I'm judging for whatever the hell happened with this behavior. That's what I'm judging about. I don't care about your work. I don't care if you're involved. I don't care. But that kind of behavior, I got a problem with it. Right? But you also note that this article was hosted on CTV Edmonton. Again, back towards where Jason Kenney and those guys would be in the whole post-media garbage going on. Just a side note, right? But what's also interesting is on this same day, July 30th, is that David Fraser and Darren Lauer release a video. Now, David Fraser is a well-known, real good, top privacy lawyer in Canada, and he works for McGinnis Cooper in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Sorry, guys. Sorry, David. I'm trying, right? And Darren Lauer, he hosts a YouTube series called The White Hatter. Now, Darren Lauer was a police officer for several years, for quite some time actually, out in Vancouver. And I tried to find some relationships with him and anybody, and the closest I could find is Harjit Sajjan was a police officer out in Vancouver area as well, but they were disconnected by quite some point. I couldn't really find any connections there. But he does say it just so happens to get David Fraser on the show. And David Fraser would ultimately, when I contact him in August 2021, just to ask about Pipita, he immediately states he's a conflict of interest. Right? So now you've got these, Kevin McCoy releasing this video with CTV on the same date that David Fraser and Darren Lauer are now talking about privacy stuff. Right? And then David Fraser saying he's a conflict of interest later on. And then I send my letter, 5-6 days later, and then boom, the Premier resigns the next day. So you can see where the connections start to come in here. Now, what I really want to make sure that I point out here is that, I super respect David Fraser, and I do want to say, throughout the process, that regardless of who he's involved with, this or that, it does seem like his company had a contract with the government, or I think it was Procurement Canada, so he may not have been able to speak to this based on who it was involving, or maybe they'd contracted him. I don't know, right? But I do want to say that David Fraser has consistently been one of the kindest people throughout this process, and even if our opinions don't match and, he doesn't agree with me, I still want to make sure that that's known so that he's given the credit that he deserves in that. So now we're at this point, where the Premier's kind of stepping down and everything. I've got this letter. Obviously, this is very stressful. That day was very stressful. I held myself together. I thought, really well. But, you know, there was a lot going on in there. And there's a lot more inside of this time frame, right? Because my GPS getting set to this place, where this Emmett contract was, I'm being followed. I mean, all these other events. But next up, we're going to start getting into where it seems like there was a honey trap set, where they very reasonably could have sent somebody to gather information on me. Yeah, we're going to get into some really, really fun topics here. Because soon after, you'll notice that the second Emmett contract starts to match the location close to me. And this starts to get much more personalized. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a moment and talk about Stephen McNeil. And I'll speak to him directly. Mr. McNeil, I really respect you. And I know this isn't going to turn out well for me, and I know what you people are going to do and what you people probably already have done. And that's too bad because, like, as a man and seeing what you've done for this province, I had a lot of respect for you. A lot of respect. I don't pretend your job is easy. You're going to face massive amounts of ridicule, and that's partly why I did that test about talking about, you know, well, black people and stuff can be racist too. It's because, like, you're the one who's going to be attacked by all these people, not me. And I wanted to understand what these people were like, and they were just monsters. They were out for a witch hunt. They would have gone after Jim. They would have gone after you. They just wanted to terrorize somebody. I watched them try to destroy a man's life, a gay man's life who had mental illness, running a restaurant because he had the different flags of all kinds of different people, and he put one up, all lives matter. And they were literally talking about how they're going to ruin his life and how good it is. I couldn't believe that kind of monster, right? It says something about the world. That kind of hate's not reserved for whites, blacks, gays, straights. It's a disease of humanity, and we all need to watch it. And I knew that kind of hate would target you. And how responsible now is it for me to judge somebody like you have done so much for the province? We're in the middle of a goddamn pandemic. You're the right man for the job. I don't care what anybody says. When that pandemic come, I was grateful as fuck that you were the premier. Right? You came out, people listened to you. Good job. Good job. And I didn't think it was responsible for me to keep going or to do anything. I never did want to bring this out. That's why I said have somebody contact me. Right? That's why I waited until you were well out of office, because it was only right for you to be able to do what you felt you wanted to do. And it shouldn't be pressured by me or any of those other factors. These individuals should get to see what's in your heart, what you feel needs to be done as a man. And I do feel you went about doing that. And I hope that you were given enough time. And I hope that you don't just see this as disrespect or me judging you. I don't pretend this was easy decisions here or there. And please recognize my situation in this. I was lost. I don't have family support, man. I don't have anybody or anything. I'm out here looking after disabled women, and it's stressful as hell. My family won't help me with anything. They have never. It's all just a lie. I laid on the floor and begged and cried and pleaded and begged them to help. They just wouldn't. So, you know, so if you wonder about me and like what I'm dealing with, you know, like I understand what that's like to be the person that just has to take it. Right? I understand that at least. And when I look, I want every single person watching this to understand that I do not think in any way that Stephen McNeil's a racist. I don't think that. There's nothing inside of me that... nothing. Right? He's a premier. That man worked hard. He did a lot for this province. He deserves respect, and he deserved the time to finish up his term without anybody bothering him. Or a bunch of fucking idiots on some witch hunt. Okay? So... I think there is a lot more to add in there, and again, I said I'm going to do a side video to add in all the fun stuff, because I mean, we've got conspiracy theories with Black Cube, with different executives from Post Media, and then executives from Emic, an SCO group, like there's like this really interesting backstory that could have been occurring. But I just want to focus more so on those fundamentals, right? So, and what's important here is, like, before I finish up, is, you know, Stephen McNeil was brothers with Robin McNeil, who was the chief of police at the time my wallet was taken, and, you know, would have been the chief when Jim would have gotten his transfers, but also would have been there when they said it was disingenuous to apologize, and so then the 19th looks a little less, it looks disingenuous itself, right? So that's more so like why they're all related. And if you look inside the Conflict of Interest Act, it clearly says brothers, right? So, and all these people were objectively involved, all these high-ranking people, and this would have gone back to Halifax Regional Police because, like I said, Jim was working there. So all these connections and stuff are very reasonable and very logical. Any reasonable person would be able to see that, which is what's so important for August 2022 when they did their false arrest. So what we're going to do is I'm going to leave it there. I think that was a pretty good video. And yeah, so thank you everybody for watching, and have a good day.